Okay, sixth chords. So I do have this explanation of sixth chords I'll be sending over. And, yep, you correctly said it last night. You're just adding the 6 instead of the 7. So, got quite a few different types of sixth chords here, but the ones we're going to focus on are these with the highlighted Roman numeral underneath, because that's in the major scale or minor scale. And then down here, that's how they appear in key. So we're going to have your major 6, which is a major chord plus a 6. You're going to have a minor 6, which only occurs once, only one time in key, and it's a very Dorian sound because it happens in the Dorian mode. So you have your minor chord plus a 6. And then I almost never see this chord name listed anywhere, but this is what it is. It's a minor flat 6. So you have a minor chord plus a flat 6. And then you have a minor flat 6, flat 5. So it's very similar to like your minor 7, flat 5. But now we're just saying minor flat 6, flat 5. And if I saw somebody put, like, say, diminished and then in parentheses flat 6, I guess that would make sense too. But this is how I was taught to do it, so that's why we're doing it. Okay, so now let's go over. Actually, I'm going to walk through one key here, and there's going to be 3 keys left. So there's a couple ways of doing this. So we're going to start with, thinking about like your basic chord first. So no sharps, no flats, key of C. So chord number 1 is a C major. And we can start by inputting that so we can kind of see what we're working with. And then typically, one thing you can do, usually the easiest way of doing this, is look for a 5th interval and raise it up to the next one in key. So that would be your G note here, going up to A. And that's one way of playing a C major 6, and you can also just call it a C6. Now, this version does leave you without the 5th interval, but that's okay. So the full name would be C6 no 5. So that's how I would go from a C major chord into a C major 6 or C6, staying in the same spot. Now, of course, we can get all the intervals in, but it wouldn't be an open chord anymore. It doesn't even list the chord name in Guitar Pro. Wait, did I put it? Yeah, I put it in the right way. No, I didn't. That's why. Shame on me. I didn't put in the 2. That's why. There we go. C6 no 5. Yep, there it is. Okay. All right, so next one. Starting with the D minor chord shape. Yep. So here, again, you could take the 5th interval and just raise it up to the next note in key, and you would get that chord. But then you'd have another chord with no 5. I like to have all intervals present if possible. So the first thing I would do when you're going through all these 6th chords, look for an octave of the root note within the chord shape and see if you can lower that down to the 6 or flat 6. Much, basically the same thing we did when creating 7th chords. We looked for an octave of the root note, and then we lowered that down to the 7 or flat 7. So here, we're going to go down 2 notes in key, so D goes down to C, down to B. So that gives us a D minor 6. So chord number 3, starting with the E minor shape. Now, what I just mentioned, if you can take an octave of the root note within the chord shape and lower it down, do that. You can't here because, well, you can't lower the high E, and in this, you don't have enough room to go down 2 notes in key. So this one, you do need to take a 5th interval and raise it up to, in this case, a flat 6, because we're going from B to C. So you could take that note there, raise it up a half step. However, my preference on this one is to raise the open B string up to the C note, because it really stands out, that flat 6. So that's going to be an E minor flat 6, which you will not see listed in Guitar Pro's drop-down menu of extra chord names. I don't know why that chord just doesn't auto-generate, why it's not a commonly used or labeled chord, but there you go. I mean, that's what it is. All right, chord number 4. Start with the F major. Now, again, looking for the octave and see if you can just lower that down. That's what I like to do. So we can't take the high E string, the F note, and lower that down because we don't have enough room. And if we looked at raising the 5th interval, well, we could raise that one up, but then, well, good luck holding that. It ain't going to work too well, I guess, unless you do like your thumb over here. That's not very comfortable. You could raise this up a whole step, but good luck holding that stretch. Probably ain't going to happen. At least not for me. So, but we can take this F note and lower that down to the open D, which means we have to lose the bar, but we don't need the top 2 strings, because that'll give us all we need for the F6. Okay, so on to the next line, chord number 5. So starting with the G major chord. So again, if possible, look for an octave of the root note within the chord shape, lower that down. This is a perfect one. So the G string, or not G string, the G note on the E string, we go down 2 notes, we just have an open E string. So that's a nice simple one to get. G6. All right, chord number 6. Starting with that A minor shape. So we cannot take this note and lower it down to the flat 6 because we don't have enough room. So we would need to take a 5th interval and raise it up. So the 5th interval is E, raise it up to F. So you can do it that way, or you could bar and play it up there, much like we did here with the E minor flat 6. We can do the same thing with the A minor flat 6 and play that up here. That one sounds a bit more pleasant. So I'm going to list both, actually, because I like both of them. And you know what? I should list both of those for the other one as well. I didn't even change the dang thing. Whoops. There. Now it's an E minor flat 6. Okay. All right, and then last, starting with the B diminished shape. So here, gonna take that octave of the root note, lower it down. Now with the option of raising the 5th up to the 6th or flat 6, doesn't work here because we need the flat 5 in order to retain the diminished sound. So you can't get rid of the flat 5 in this if you want to have that diminished sound. You could technically just get rid of it and go to this, but then it just becomes a B minor, flat 6, no 5. But to keep that diminished sound, again, we need to have that F note in there. So you're just going to take that B note there, go down 2 notes, so you have an open G string. There you go. Whoops. And yeah, that one will not auto-generate to what we want in Guitar Pro. So I'm going to have to manually type it out. B minor, flat 6, flat 5. And that's that. So go ahead, fill in the rest, send it on over. Any questions come up, let me know. And I will see you again next week.